What was the most horrifically embarrassing moment in your life or one you witnessed? I'll tell you mine. When I was younger, I really fancied this girl. I was talking to her face to face and my friend had ran up behind me and pulled my trousers and boxers completely down to my ankles. A scanting is what it would be locally called. I will never forget the slow motion of it all. I can laugh at it looking back now, but wow, that was horrific, and something that would never be palmed off as normal now. Back in the 1990s it was. What about you? In the circa 2010, I was at a friend's place with a few of us there. A guy I didn't know all that well was bragging about his amazing new phone camera. This was in the days where there were very noticeable jumps in camera technology on phones, so he was scrolling through images. He had taken pics in a supermarket of a colourful aisle to show the contrast, and there was this figure in the bottom corner. Looked like a random had noticed him taking pictures and tried to duck out of shot while pulling a real weird face. I said, "Pity the fat bloke didn't get out of shot." He said, "That's my missus." Late 90s secondary school. Summer, playing football on the school field at lunch, tried to chip the ball and dislocate my hip, immediately fall to the ground. Mates think I'm joking and start kicking the ball at me until I realize I can't stand and feel the pain so burst out crying, like ugly crying. They took my trousers down to see what I'd done in front of literally the whole school. And worse than the pain was, I was wearing these really tight Aladdin boxer shorts, which ain't cool for a 16-year-old lad, and I could even see some of my teachers sniggering. An ambulance had to drive on the field and cart me off. Back in 2000, I had just started in Year 7 and was in the process of reinventing myself in an attempt to be a cool kid at this school. At lunch, we had those Calypso drinks in the plastic cups where you pierce the flat lid with a straw. I had got a spare and kept it in my blazer pocket for later, that being the waist-height pocket. Now it's worth pointing out my family was not well off, so my mam got me a blazer that was a few sizes bigger so I wouldn't need a new one next year. This means the waist pocket hung a little lower than you would expect. ICT rolls round, and I'm seated next to the best-looking girl in our year. All the other guys are jealous, and much to my surprise, I was getting on really well with her. After a while, she points down at my chair and says, Are you okay?" as there seems to be liquid dripping off the bottom of my chair. Realizing I had sat on the edge of my spare Calypso beverage, and it had somehow slowly leaked through and wet my chair and trousers in a way that looked like I had wet myself. I stood up and everyone has turned around, and I heard someone across the way say, "Oh my God, I think Sodium_GK has wet themself." Channeling pure Simon from the In-Betweeners, Mark Corrigan, all I managed to say was, "No. Honestly, it's not P, the teacher, though," sealed my fate with a heartfelt and tragic, "Oh dear. Do you want to step out to the toilet and sort yourself out?" I was supply teaching years ago and had the pleasure of bottom set Year 10, Science, Genetics. As it happened, Ofsted was in school, but I was convinced that nobody would come into a cover lesson, so was quite relaxed. You all know what happened next. Just as one boy was taking off his shoe and enthusiastically peeling off his sock, exclaiming, "Miss, is that why my toes are like this?" The door opened, and in walked an inspector. She looked at me, I looked at her, and, with my mouth rapidly drying, I desperately said the only thing I could think of. "So who can tell me why John's feet are like this?" Clearly, at least in my own mind, that was a question requiring an answer based on genetics. You know, the whole point of the lesson we were doing. However, from the back of the room came the voice of one of the students who said, and I will remember this to my dying day, "He's like this because his mum shagged a brother." Dead silence. The inspector looked at me. I looked at her. Not a word was said. Then she turned around and left the room, her face as expressionless as it was when she came in. I still wake up sweating, thinking about this in the wee small hours. One time I was in a queue in a shop with my daughter, who was around 4 at the time, and she asked loudly why the lady in front of us had a beard and she thought only daddies had them, and proceeded to laugh hysterically while I was whispering, "Shut up, for God's sake. Never been so embarrassed." Another time with my son, who was also 4 or 5, walking through a car park to a supermarket as a ginger-haired lad was walking towards us, and he said, "Look, Mum, it's your favorite Ed Sheeran." Luckily, the lad cracked up laughing and gave him a high five. Kids can't take them anywhere. Went to a child-friendly festival with some other families. Me and one of the other dads had gone back to the cars to blow up the air mattresses. Walking back to the campsite, there was a rather rotund, gothy person a reasonable distance ahead of us, well out of earshot, carrying a dodgy-looking brown Vela air mattress on their head. I said to my mate, "Look at the state of that mattress that man, woman, or beast is carrying, only for an older woman about 2M ahead of us to spin round on her heel and loudly proclaim, 'That man, woman, or beast is my daughter.'" Cue my shocked face, and my mate bent double, pissing himself. Nothing too crazy, honestly, but back in school there was a guy who was always trying to act the tough guy. He was constantly bullying people, starting fights, trying to act like a playboy in front of the girls. One day outside, he was trying to start a fight on someone. The usual exchange of words from a short distance ensued. As he moved in to close the distance, one of his eyes was suddenly submerged in an off-white substance. He had, in fact, been shat on by a pigeon. With everyone breaking out into laughter, I've never seen anyone's ego leave their body as quickly as that. To this day, I'll always remember the face he made as he halted his advance and turned around and ran away, still shouting that this wasn't over. A few weeks later, he left the school. By my calculations, that situation was in fact over the moment he got shat on. Everyone knew my boss was having an affair with someone. We'll call her Holly. One day, I was out working with him and a couple of female colleagues, and he kept calling them Holly by mistake, but clearly kept trying to cover it up. So I texted my mate back at HQ. "Bloody hell, he keeps calling everyone Holly, couldn't be any more obvious." But I accidentally texted it to my boss instead. Actually, it wasn't that embarrassing because I grabbed his phone and deleted the text before he could read it and claimed I'd sent something to him by mistake instead of my girlfriend. Fastest thinking I've ever done. Not the most horrific, but since it happened today and I'm still reeling from it, I'm sharing. As a waitress in a hotel, I quite often have to carry large trays of hot food from one kitchen upstairs to the banquet hall. Today, I had a large tray of fried eggs, 40-50 eggs, boot the door open to the stairwell to begin the ever-so-familiar accent. Well, I must have had too much Weetabix today because the door swung full force into the wall, bounced back into the full tray, ramming it into my ribs, where I then lost balance and threw half the tray all over the floor. When you have 90 guests for a buffet breakfast, all waiting on eggs, and you come up wearing it all over your shoes, it's not worth the £9.50 an hour. This was years ago. A local radio show did a segment called Flirty at 10:30. You would call and say that you had a crush on someone, and then the radio show would call the crush. I think if they agreed to go on a date, the radio show would pay for it, maybe. A woman calls up and says how she fancies this guy at work, has done for ages, and that they've been flirting for months. The show calls the guy, and it goes a bit like this. "DJ, hi, this is Flirty at 10:30. We know someone who fancies you. Any idea who it could be? Guy, no idea, who is it? DJ, it's someone from work." This goes back and forth. He guesses a few women, but it's none of them. He's clearly excited about finding out. DJ, it's asterisk woman's name asterisk. Dead silence. Guy, I'm not interested. And actually I'm married. This was bad enough, but he didn't realize this was a three-way call, and she could hear it. Speak to him. Woman, are you kidding me? You've never told me you were married. You kept flirting with me. What about those other women? Do you flirt with them too? Everyone in office is going to know what a scumbag you are. DJ tries to interrupt a few times, then just says, So I guess there's not going to be a date then. I didn't get any work done for about an hour after that. Back when we were about 10 and 13, my brother and I went through this weird phase where every time we saw our dad, we'd greet him with, "Hello, my name is Harry Potter," the way that YouTuber Nigahiga said it in that one video. We loved doing it because it really got on his nerves. One day, there was a tradesman bent over in the cupboard under the stairs doing whatever it is tradesmen in cupboards under stairs do, and I walked past, and all I could see was the back of him. So I assumed he was my dad, so I stopped and punctured the silence with, "Hello, my name is Harry Potter." And he turned around and frowned at me and sort of just gave me a half nod in his confusion, and I just nodded back sheepishly and scurried away absolutely mortified.
For more stories like this one, be sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on TikTok at CaptivatingCont for more content.